Hi, team. This is George. Appreciate all the hard work and effort you're putting into our project. And you will have your feedback to you by Wednesday evening for Project 2. So, as we're moving through uh, the next stages of our project, I wanted to kind of show you the storyboarding and wireframing that I sometimes use for this. But before we do that, I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit and jump back into the analysis. Whether you're using ADDIE, rapid prototyping, Dick and Carey model, whatever strategy you're using, the analysis or assessment phase is hugely important because that can save you a lot of time. Even though in the rapid prototyping model, we kind of continually go back and reassess and reassess and reassess, we want to get as much detail as we can. Now, I use this for manufacturing in our analysis stage, and the reason why I like it is because briefly state the existing issue. Remember, whenever you design, you have to meet organizational goals. We love to talk about learner strategies, learning strategies, and all that has to lead us to meeting organizational goals. So why does the organization care? So why do they care about this training at all? So briefly state the existing issue. So you have to have a clear understanding of what the actual issue is from an organizational perspective. Sometimes the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's real easy to lose track of that because we're constantly thinking about learning outcome, learner needs, and everything, which are extremely important. At the same time, we have to worry about those from the context of organizational goals. So why are these learning goals important to the organization? And I also like it because we have driving requirements. Whoops. In here, and I don't know why that went away from that page. But we also have driving requirements. Is it a law? Is it a regulation? Is it some sort of code? And is it to improve skill or improve knowledge? What is it? And what type of training is it going to be? In this case, I've used this for either self-paced training or the facilitator-led training, face-to-face training as well. But either way, it really works well if you remember to identify existing issues according to the organization, what you want to do, and then if there's any driving requirements. With that being said, let's jump into here and, and also a task analysis is important if you're in manufacturing or something that's building things, doing like that. So this is a task analysis breakdown that I usually use. So let's say, so it's a skill, they're building product X, the condition, how are they working, flight line team, supervisory, etc. What is the output, or in other words, specific behavior, because we want to be behavior based, because when you can see a behavior, you can measure a behavior, and what is the standard. And then all of these tasks fall underneath whatever the primary thing is that they're building or doing. And then you rate on frequency, criticality, and difficulty. So when people ask you, how do you know what to train on? Well, you have a task, and then you rate it frequency, criticality, and difficulty, and we have directions right here on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being least important, 10 being most important. So how often do you do it? Well, if you do something daily, frequency would probably be pretty high. We'll give it a 10. We do it all the time. Critical, so in aerospace, 10 would be the airplane falls out of the sky. 1 would be nobody cares. So let's say, just for our instance here, and the SMEs know how to rate these. You just have to coach them on the rating scale, and then they'll know exactly the numbers to put in and how difficult is the task at hand. So let's say if the task was tightening a bolt, difficulty is going to be relatively low. So that goes together. It multiplies it all together, and it gives us a score. If it's blue, we definitely use it. Green, it's nice to know stuff. If we could fit in, we'll use it. If it's red, it doesn't really need to be in there. So that's how we know what to train, and then we can take that and we can put that back into our design and development and all that good stuff. So I kind of took us backwards a little bit, talking about analysis and then task analysis as well. So let's jump in and look at my favorite part here, if I can get there without bouncing around 12 different ways, at my favorite part, and that is going to be right here. Okay, so here's an analysis. So we built this. This was for a coaching class that we were creating, and it was rapid prototyping. Now I happen to be one of the SMEs, so I was able to make it even leaner than usual. And I bring that point up because the documentation that you use, you want it to fit A, your organization, so it has to fit the organization, and B, it has to fit you as well, and has to fit the team also, because you don't want to be overburdened by paperwork, but you need it so you have everything that's required. So in this case, we have enabling objectives, evaluation strategy, and then interactions or media, what it's going to be. So in this one, we have our enabling objective here. We have our evaluation strategy. And one thing about evaluation strategy, you want evaluation strategy for the particular objective, but overall, when you zoom out, you want to have an evaluation strategy for your entire project. So how do we know if our project works? And that goes back to here being based on your organizational needs. That's how you know that. So that's just kind of a sidebar there. So this is what I use to then move to our next stage. Here's our instructional flow. It talks about insert quiz, so it has this. And one thing, we use this to have discussions back and forth. You can see we talked with different folks and got different input and came to, for that particular objective, it was a script for a video. And here it is right here. We talked back and forth. A lot of us were having discussions back and forth about what should be in there, how it should look. And we came up with some possible ideas and everything else. And the big piece here is this learner engagement. How are they going to engage? So as we went through this, we wrote our script. There's a great video on how to write a script in our week 3 area. So that's just fantastic. Okay, because writing a script, I continually repolish my scripts because they're sometimes absolutely no good. Sometimes they're good, but they always start out needing that polish. So when we did this, this is what all of this came out to be. And I won't bore you with everything, but that was it. And if you notice, there's that graphic that comes up. And then this piece here, this was all about the different bullet points that were here. Let's see if we can find those bullet. There they are: coaching, assessment, professional development. Oh, well, those are the wrong ones, but they're bullet points in here somewhere that state exactly that. And that's what they, the reason why the bullet points are in here. And then the trust, respect, honest. So it's all right here. And it came from here. And this was a quick, just rapid prototyping. We're going to start with our assessment. We're going to move to our design, and they're going to all overlap. And as we're designing and building scripts, we were actually building the video as well and making changes in the video. So what this required us to do was have a video tool. We happened to use Go Animate, which is really flexible, and I used Adobe Audition to create the audio. So we made stick figures. We actually drew it out on paper, kind of what we wanted after we had it here, put it into Go Animate, and then you see the polished final product that came out. So just because you're rapid prototyping doesn't mean that your final product is going to be rough. Now, for our purposes, it can be. It's not going to be completely high fidelity in the class because of the time that we're in. We're in a bit of a time standard, being those 7 weeks that we have to get this built. So that was that piece. Another piece that I use for storyboarding. So this is just one way. There are so many ways. Here's what I use: objective, learner interactions, graphics, media, assessment, content, and then the best tool, alternate tool on this side. Those are some very important pieces. Now this is just the storyboard part, so that would be consistent with what we did here when we wrote the script, the graphics, the learner engagement, all of that. but it does not take place of all this part here that comes before it. So I just kind of want to bring home the point that everything's built on top of so even rapid prototyping and assessment and everything kind of builds from that. And depending on the topic, so are you doing leadership development, manufacturing, what are you doing? We can bring in different tools. So this tasking learning analysis breakdown, you could even use this for leadership training, because leadership often comes down to critical behaviors. So you could actually map out your critical behaviors too. And as I said, map, sometimes that's what I do. Probably noticed from the last video, I tend to map things out, and that's how I make my wireframes, is I just build a map. It's a wireframe. I like calling it a map because it takes into consideration the emotion that I want the learner to take with them from it, because we want them to connect with all of the materials. So you've probably seen that video previously, so I'm not going to go into that too deeply. So for our purposes, wireframes, you can make those from a numerous different ways as well. In our storyboards, you can go from something as simple as this. You can even go hand drawn if you like. It doesn't matter. What matters is you have the information needed to make a difference for the learner and for the organization. So I hope this helps. I'll post some of these in the discussion format, where there's a couple discussion forum, I should say, where there's a few questions about different materials, because I know that one link they removed some of the materials they used to have in there. So I will post a few of these in there. And if you have something that you like to use, I would ask if you post yours in there as well, because remember, we need to fit certain situations and organizations. So if you have something that works, share it with us. And then maybe as we move forward in our careers, we'll have a place that we need to use that as well. So have a great week.